All right, team, we are live. Happy hump day to you. Can you believe it's already Wednesday? That's a nice thing about a Monday holiday right there. Okay, couple things. First of all, jumbo rates are incredible. In fact, let me not be stupid and put my contact information up here because right now, jumbo loans, so anything above the conforming loan limit, rates really, really good, high twos, just great opportunity for people who are jumbo market. If you want to, do a refinance, get someone off of the loan or whatever. Very rare that that's the case. So just wanted to make that clear. Going to look at mortgage bonds today. I'm trying to find the bright side here. I feel like the banks are really hedged in, hedged heavy to the downside here. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens the next couple of days. I think tomorrow is going to be a very big day. I'll just kind of give you the gist of what I'm looking at here. And then I'm going to show you one of the most, eye-popping graphs I've seen in a long time as far as what is going to cause real estate demand to continue. Well, low rates always helps, right? So we're going to start here. This trend, this upper trend here is still intact. So even though it's been a crazy ride and we sort of accelerated higher, came down, back even higher, and then crashed prior to that Fed announcement on the tapering stuff, we're still holding this overall healthy, slow incline. However, we are now at a fork in the road. We have major resistance above us. We have the 25-day, we have the 50-day, and then we have a 50% Fibonacci retracement, which is a very strong resistance level. And then if we get through all that, the 200-day right here. So looking above right now, not looking so fresh. And this is why I believe the banks have hedged to expecting more movement to the downside, which of course, when bonds go lower, rates go higher, the inverse relationship. So that's what I'm looking at. So I'm holding on to some hope because the trend line is intact, but there's a lot of resistance above. So this is a locking scenario for the most part. However, I don't mind floating to tomorrow since we're up 13 basis points today. If you're in a purchase, you want to kind of see what happens, or you're not on the razor's edge with your max PE or something for a rate that the client wants. But, it's unlikely, I think, that we crest all of that stuff tomorrow. But hey, if it happens, you want to be there for it, right? You want to capture it. So I totally get that. Let's take a look at the graph. This is the one, guys. And this, by the way, all this, including the graph I just showed you, and this graph, all provided by MBS Highway. And Dan Abib was talking about this one today and was showing kind of like, hey, here's the forecast. So, approximately the average home buyer is about first-time home buyer is about 33 years old. Okay, so people start buying houses in their early 30s. 33 is a number that's agreed upon as just sort of like the average place to look at for data purposes. So if we look back, 33-year-olds, we go back to, see, this is 1981, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, okay, 87, 88, somewhere in there, right? One of these two. And this is where we are. So you can see the next, and this is where demand comes from, right? And I'll go back and show you how this makes sense going backwards too. So this is where we are today for this year. Next year, higher. The year after that, higher. The year after that, higher. And then it starts to wean off just a tad, but not a lot. Please stop. It weans off just a little bit. It's so little that I can't even draw it. So just a little bit lower each year. And so that we have this sort of cresting going on before we go to here a new high up here. And I think we very well could see, the real estate market do something similar. But the difference is, right now, in the past decade, we've just way underbuilt homes. We're millions and millions of homes short. Remember we talked last video I made, and it was last week. We're 12 million homes less for sale today than there were in 2006. Even though the payments are similar. So let me phrase that for you. So in 2006, before the crash, average payment on the mortgage was the same as it is today. However, income has grown 55%. Household income has grown 55% in those last 15 years. And we had 12 million less homes for sale now than we did back then. So this sort of explains everything, right? And then if you go back a little bit, so this is from today. So we're in 2021. Let's go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. See where I'm going? So that's 2010. 33-year-olds, 2009, 2008. So right here at the bottom of that 33-year-old is now home buyer generation X, right at the bottom of that spree, if you will, that's when we cratered in real estate. So you could see and this isn't necessarily indicative of demand, but it just shows you the amount of possible people who might be looking to buy. This pretty much coincides with the run up in real estate and then the crash that took place, right? Because these are pretty big changes, and that involves the baby boomer generation. So when that cratered, that's right when the real estate market cratered. Remember, we had way more homes for sale, and look how many fewer potential buyers versus where we are today. But just to give you an idea of the delta there. Okay. Not to mention, we have a situation now where we're going to be stair-stepping up every year. There's going to be more and more people looking to buy. So, I've been saying this for a while. The next 3 or 4 years, just expect real estate prices to go higher. Just expect it. It's going to happen. I mean, it's what's going to happen. It's what's been happening. It's what's going to happen. Everything points towards it. Lack of inventory, increase in demand. These are macro items. That's the reason why you're seeing this happen all over the country. It's not just in the best places to live. It's not just in the most desirable places to live. It is literally everywhere, because this is national data. It is a macro phenomenon. It is a secular trend, not a cyclical one. Remember that video we talked about? This is not a cyclical thing. This is secular. This is big time. And I don't see anything changing this. I don't know. I was having a lunch today with a good buddy of mine who's a realtor, and we were both just brainstorming, like, okay, what could something crash the market? Like, what would it be? How could it happen? Where would the inventory come from? What would scare the buyers away? Just looking at the buyers who are buying today, buying with money down, very committed to these properties. It's just a totally different situation, and there's no plan B. When you buy a house, you put 10% down, you're in for $75,000 or something like that. I mean, your alternative is to go rent if things go sideways or prices depress 5 or 10%. I don't think people are giving up their homes for that. And I mean, that's about as bad as we could imagine it. So if we look at 3 or 4 years from now when this peaks, remember, that's not necessarily meaning that it's over. That just means you'll finally see some relief in demand. And the other thing you're not seeing on this chart is the institutional buying of real estate, which that to me, if I'm going to look at it and go, okay, what could cause the market to change the most? It would be if the institutions stop buying real estate. If they just stopped. They won't sell it, because remember, institutions are not buying real estate to flip it. They are buying it as a bond. They're saying, okay, well, if we spend $1 million on this house and we can rent it for $5,000 a month, we're making $60,000 a year on our $1 million. That's a 6% bond. And oh, by the way, we get tax advantages and all sorts of things. And hey, guess what? The home might appreciate too, but who cares? We're going to get our $60,000 a year over and over and over. They're buying real estate as a bond and potentially as a bond replacement. This is happening with mega corporations all over the world. There's a guy on YouTube. I'll actually link to him. There's a guy on YouTube who's tracking this stuff, and he's investigating all these different cash purchases by these different LLCs and drawing them back to parent companies. Mega corporations all over the world, international corporations, are buying real estate to rent it. So we're not even factoring that in here. Like, forget that. Even take that away. We still have 3 or 4 more years of strong growth in real estate, at least. Add in the institutions, and we might have another decade of this. I tell you this not because I'm trying to be the bearer of bad news. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand what's going on so that you don't look back on this in 10 years or 5 years and go, gosh, why didn't I see it? Why didn't someone explain it to me? What was happening? How could this be happening? How could real estate prices go even higher than they are today? Here's the explanation. It's plain and simple. Okay, if you look at the trouble that the builders are having, keeping up with just the organic annual demand, much less making up the millions and millions of homes in deficit. If you look at the growing number of buyers coming into the fray, if you look at the amount of wealth that is out there, if you look at the institutions purchasing real estate, it's really, really curious why it's not worse. I mean, it should be, when I say worse, prices should be higher. I don't know why I'm calling that worse. I'm speaking for buyers on behalf of buyers here, mortgage guy here, trying to help my buyers get into homes, trying to help people understand why they should get into a home. Because if you're in, you get to participate, right? Let's say you go and you buy a house, and let's say it's not your perfect house. Let's say it's not the perfect house, but you're in. Prices, someone told me, well, prices could be lower in 10 years. I don't think so. First of all, if you bought at the very peak before the global economic collapse that took place as a result of real estate, Wall Street getting a hold of real estate, 10 years later, you were in the green. It was 9.5 years to break even. So 10 years later, you were in the green. So 10 years, I don't think so. I don't think so. Any 10-year period, I don't think you're going to see real estate prices be less. But I will tell you this, it's entirely possible real estate could be double or triple what it is today in 10 years. That's possible. Because the thing about institutions is right now we have a couple hundred institutions buying real estate. Not a lot of the really, really big ones, except for BlackRock, maybe a couple others. Institutions could buy all the real estate. There's enough money there. And that's my greatest concern, is that happens. And you know what? If that happens, real estate will be 3x what it is today in 10 years. And what are you going to do then? So if it's the case that we just continue on this current trajectory, and I don't mean 20% a year, I mean maybe 8% a year. I mean, will we have another 20% year? We could. We totally could. I can't believe all these people talking about crashes. If you see anyone doing a real estate video about how the crash is coming, just know that person does not know what they're talking about. If they were paying attention to just the most basic elements, supply and demand. This is the demand graph here. This shows us we're going to have stair-stepping demand for years to come. And when we swing down, that little gift right there could be a buying window. Maybe. It doesn't mean prices will go lower, though. It just means there might not be accelerating at as much of a rate. That you may see like, okay, we're going 10%. Let's say we're up 10% here, and then 8% here, and then 6% here, and then 10% here, and then 3% here, and then 3% there. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to necessarily mean like these are negative because we're decreasing in demand. It just simply means that we may see a deceleration in appreciation. So if that's the case, but this drawing tool is just something right now. This could be a good buying opportunity in relatively speaking to what's been taking place. But again, we're going to go and make new highs up here for demand. That's coming. So if you know all this, does it make sense to wait? Does it make sense to say, you know what, I'm going to wait for a better time. I'm going to wait till prices come down. I'm going to wait. That's the thing. I don't think it does. I really don't. And, as someone who's very pragmatic with this stuff and very transparent with what my personal thoughts are on it, I think we're going to see a lot of regret from people who didn't buy in this market because they thought prices would go lower and they were just wrong. And that's what we've seen for the past 10 years. But now it's really lining up. See, if we had looked at this at the bottom, if we had seen this graph and gone, oh, okay, hey, let's take a look here. Let's look at this right here. This is where we are. Guys, don't worry. This is coming because we have this data, right? This data was all here. We're looking at 33-year-olds. So we're going back 33 years. This data was all here. You could have seen it. You could have seen this demand was going to pick up drastically, and that real estate would be fine. You'd have been able to see this. This is the demand graph. The supply graph wasn't as obvious. The supply graph, we needed time to see what was going to happen with builders as they really slowed down production because most of them went bankrupt. The ones who survived had to be very selective with the projects they took on. They had to cut losses. They had to, brutal bloodshed, just tons of red. But some of them survived, and they're still here today. Now, knowing how many homes were actually built in the last 10 years, dramatically less than any decade previous, going back to the 50s. So how could we be building less homes per year when we have more people here? That doesn't make sense. Well, that you're seeing that come to fruition, not just in the real estate market for the purchase side, but also for rentals. It's a housing crisis. That's what's going on. And this is the most important thing, in my opinion, to understand beyond the inventory stuff, which we've discussed previously. So I wanted to share that with you. I just want you to be smarter than everyone else. I want you to understand this stuff if you're paying attention to what we're doing here. And we are live, so feel free to say what's up if you want to. All right, we talked about this one real quick. I'm going to look at the U.S. markets down again today. I thought this was interesting. This is yesterday. Morgan Stanley downgrades U.S. stocks. We see a bumpy September, October. Okay. Will we get the Santa Claus rally afterwards? I don't know. That seems kind of vague to me. Today, Barclays raises year-end S&P 500 forecast, doesn't see Fed taper causing sell-off. It's almost like just throwing mud at the wall. One of you is going to be right, so let's just publish opposing stories. Markets, seem to be cooling off a little bit. You're going to see bonds relatively stable, oil in the high 60s still, gold back under 1,800. Crypto got crushed. There was a kind of a flash crash yesterday. What's really interesting about today is that everything's green except for Bitcoin. That doesn't make any sense. Bitcoin definitely best of breed. But there was this article about Coinbase. SEC is going to sue them over the interest earning product that they have. That's pretty interesting to me to see that Coinbase is going to get sued by a regulator. That's not something that you see very often. And so, I don't know. We'll see if anything comes of that. That said, let's see what happens tomorrow. It's a very big day on the bond side. We really need to know what's going to happen with this mess here. And, it doesn't look great. Okay. I'll just level with you. It doesn't look great. But if we are going to bust to the upside, it could be violent. It could be very, very positive. So we want to keep a close eye on that. And of course, if you know anyone who wants to buy or refi, what's up, Mathin? My boy. What's going on, brother? Give me a call. Shoot me a text. Send me an email. Happy to help. That's what I'm here for. Everyone have a great day, and I will see you soon.